All right, so it's my pleasure now to introduce our next topic here. What makes a leader a leader? Leaving a leadership legacy. So first, I just would like to introduce Aiko Bethea, who is a leader, builder, and connector who has successfully navigated leadership roles in government, philanthropic, nonprofit, and private sectors. In each sector, she created inaugural roles to meet growing organizational needs. After leading a legal team at the City of Atlanta under the leadership of Stacey Abrams, Aiko served as Director of Compliance for the City of Atlanta and Deputy Director of a Compliance Department at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Most recently, she was the Head of Diversity and Inclusion for Fred Hutch Cancer Research Center. Welcome, Aiko. All right, next up, I want to introduce Sheema B, who is no stranger to challenge and struggle. After almost 18 years of service in the US Navy, she continues to serve as a chief to develop and grow the future leaders of the military and boardrooms. She is married to a woman and continues to encourage and facilitate diversity and inclusion in leadership. Earning her bachelor's degree in management and marketing with a minor in psychology, she enhanced her ability to empower others, create positive change, and lead with trust. Paying it forward is how she teaches, coaches, and leads. Sheema B is the Chief Executive Officer for the Proactive Leader Academy. The Academy's signature program is the Leadership Shift, which helps frustrated women leaders who lack focus, foresight, and resilience develop a game plan to create clarity, be proactive, and build toughness within yourself, and the world that you lead. So welcome, Sheema B. Next, we have Hakemia Jackson, who is the gift enforcer. I love that. She helps clients walk in their freedom and utilize their gifts within. She is intrigued and experienced in journeying with clients as they disengage from limiting beliefs and conditioned responses. Her formal credentials include Master's in Science and Organizational Behavior and Executive Coaching. She's a licensed spiritual belief therapist and is a professional certified coach. She specializes in transforming complex cultures into human-centric cultures of inclusivity and innovation that will create long-term sustainable value. Hakemia is the CEO of Divinely Powered Leadership Development and Executive Coaching Practice. Welcome. All right, up next, we have Quinn Conyers, who partners with event planners to transform their events into epic experiences as a compelling keynote speaker and energetic MC. She has over 17 years of virtual and in-person speaking, event hosting, and MC experience. Quinn takes pride in unleashing the voices of entrepreneurs, executives, and speakers so that they can communicate with confidence, charisma, and clarity on any virtual or in-person platform or podium. Quinn is a proud member of the National Speakers Association, sits on the board of the Global Black Women Chamber of Commerce, and was named one of 20 Black women entrepreneurs to watch. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll pass the mic to you all.
Thank you so much, Mariella. I appreciate that kind introduction. And let's just give it up for her. She's been doing an awesome and amazing job with transitioning each of these events. It's not easy doing virtual events, but Mariella is making it look effortlessly. Listen, y'all, I am super excited. Not only is it Black History Month, we get to have a conversation with awesome and amazing, not one, not two, but three women who are really the epitome of leadership. And I'm really excited to moderate this powerful panel, especially when it comes to what really makes a leader and how these women are leaving a legacy with their leadership abilities. So again, my name is Quinn Conyers, and I'm really excited to really amplify Black excellence, because I don't know about you, but literally when it's Black History Month, you know, it smells a little cocoa butterish in the air. It sounds a little bit of Black excellence in the air, and I really love that. So you are here because you want to know what really does make a leader. Is it technical skills? Is it emotional intelligence? Is it the ability to communicate effectively? Whether you are currently managing a team or that's your 2022 goal, we hope that you find and join this interactive discussion where we explore the focus, the foresight, and the resilience it takes to be a powerful leader this year and beyond. Like Mariella said, I am joined with three powerful women on this panel. We definitely have Aiko Bethea, Sheema B, and Hakemia Jackson. So I'm really excited to get this party started. So let's go ahead and just kind of have this conversation, because that's what it is. We're having a conversation, and you in the audience fly on the wall. You get to tap into the thought leadership, the perspective of women who live, breathe, and really understand and embody what leadership is. So I'm going to get started by asking a question for you. Now, we can all be leaders or followers. We definitely heard this probably growing up in elementary or middle school, but all three of you wonderful women have decided to be leaders. I'm going to start with you, Aiko. Why is leadership inspiring and motivating to you?
So I think that one, I would say it's not a binary, right? You're not a leader or a follower. Because to be a leader, you have to be a follower. I'm sure we've all heard that adage before. But what's inspiring is, and if I had to think about it, what makes a leader to me, it's this one trait, and it's when leaders choose courage over comfort. And I think that that's where you really see the intersection of someone actually doing the thing that's hard to do. You're not a leader because you're doing everything that's easy or what everyone else is doing. You're usually causing some type of disruption. You're leaning more into who you are instead of away from who you are. Oftentimes, many of us are put in that situation of leading away from who we are, like assimilating, covering, code switching. So when you see leaders choosing courage over comfort, that's what's inspiring to me. Thanks for asking.
Write that down, hashtag that, put that on social media, hashtag courage over comfort. I even wrote that down, y'all. I have my pen. So if you're anything like me and you take notes, she's exactly right. You know, it takes a leader to be a follower and a follower to be a leader, but courage over comfort is something that I really want you guys to embrace and embody. So thank you for that nugget. Sheema B, I'm coming to you as well. You know, why is leadership inspiring and motivating to you?
Leadership is inspiring and motivating to me for actually the same thing that Aiko said. It is about being uncomfortable. And a lot of times that uncomfortability is what leads to greater influence and impact. So when it comes to leadership, to me, it's all about being able to be impactful towards those who are looking to you. I kind of shy away from the thing when people say, well, you're not a leader if you don't have a follower. As far as I'm concerned, you are leading numero uno every day, and that's yourself. And if you learn to lead yourself, the others will follow. So being impactful and being that person that is influencing those who are looking at you, regardless to whether you realize they are looking at you or not, and being the epitome of what courage, change, just exceeding all challenges is what I see as being a leader, and it's why I'm inspired and motivated to keep doing what I do. Thank you for asking the question, Quinn.
I love that, because you talked about, you know, most people want an army behind them, right? Which is not a problem. But if you can't lead if you can't lead yourself, if you can't, like what Aiko said, you know, have the courage over comfort, that's kind of like the prerequisite. That's the foundation for leadership, being able to lead yourself, being able to have courageous or uncomfortable conversations and push past anyway to make sure that vision or that mission is executed. So, you know, thank you for that. Really, really good insight. Hakemia, we want you to join this conversation. We want your 2 cents. We want your nickel and we want your quarter. So I want to know from you as well, you know, why leadership? What is inspiring and motivating and empowering to you about being a leader right here, right now?
Well, right here, right now, I've just always had this in me to serve. And I think serving takes a lot. It takes a selflessness, right? But with the understanding that you're serving to make a larger impact. So it's bigger than me when I lead, right? I am shaping the hearts and minds and hands of people around me. So serving is very important to me, as well as being ferociously curious and slow to judge. So my curiosity to explore, to get to know Sheema, Quinn, Aiko, you know, it invests something in the relationship. It builds rapport, it builds that credibility, and it deepens the connection. So that's why, you know, I choose and I love to lead over anything else. So
I don't know if y'all pick it up what Hakemia just dropped down. She said, ferociously curious, not just curious, but ferociously curious. You know, I want to jump in on this conversation. I want to leave a legacy with my language, right? And when she said ferociously, that just kind of got my spidey senses up. So I absolutely love that. Not just being curious, but being active actively curious or ferociously curious, as you just said, which I just wanted to highlight. So thank you for that. Aiko, I'm coming back to you because you are a leadership coach. That means that you lead other leaders, right? And that's important because you can lead what you're doing, but I think it takes a different insight, a different perspective, a different personality to lead others, especially in the coaching, because sometimes people might not want to hear what we say, or they might want to grow and expand, but they don't know how to do that. And here comes your experience and your expertise. So I want to know, who is you as a leadership coach, what has been the focus of your practice, especially when you're elevating, I'm not going to say underrepresented, I'm going to say underestimated people of color, even Black people, because I feel like we're not underrepresented, we're just underestimated. People don't know our greatness until people like you broadcast our brilliance. So tell me a little bit about that. What's your leadership coaching style?
So I think that for one, with coaching is really different from consulting, right? We're not directing and telling people what to do with our great expertise or knowledge. We're not mentoring and cheerleading people on. We're actually leading from behind. And we're almost like a Sherpa with folks. And we're asking them the questions that sometimes we just don't have space to think about or to ask ourselves. But the foundation of my belief is always that my clients are resourceful, highly capable and intelligent, and they have the answers, but I can just create the space and the clearing for them to tap into that. What are your values? What's really the impact you want to make in life? But I think one thing that might be a bit different, especially if you have a coach who looks like you, or a coach, if I'm coaching somebody who's white, somebody who's actually being able to elevate a system that they may not recognize exists. So for me, I am actually also looking at the systems that my clients are navigating. So it helps people, if you're a Black woman and you're in a mostly white space, for you to separate the dialogue you're having with yourself that's coming from the space. So a lot of those spaces for many of us when we're navigating white spaces are disempowering messages, the space, nobody looks like me, there are assumptions in the system. But for me to be able to see the system, to recognize that's not me with imposter syndrome, that's me recognizing, oh, this is what's in the water and I don't need to drink it. Now, for other people who the system might be supporting, it's important for me to also help and elevate their emotional intelligence. They understand the message that they're getting and experience they're having is very different from other people who are not like them. So that is my job. And what are you going to do about it in order to make sure that we're all working within the same space equitably and impactfully? So systems coaching is a little bit different, but my work always will center people of color first. And as a Black woman, of course, Black people I'm looking at. And that's what a lot of systems don't automatically do by default. So that's what I carry as a part of my work. So whoever I'm coaching and however they look, they're always going to know that that perspective is in play. And it's not something that I hide or something that I try to cover, but it's going to elevate whoever my client is going to elevate them in their own emotional intelligence, because the spaces we navigate do not do that.
Aiko, you are singing my song. You are doing my dance as you were speaking. And it's good to have that perspective. I just kept thinking this can be a part 2 panel, like being a leader when you are the only woman of color, the only Black person, period. That could be a whole nother conversation. And it's good that you keep that perspective in mind when you are coaching, because that is a different perspective if you are leading, but you are the only Black person, the only woman, the only person of color, period. So I love the fact that in your coaching philosophy that you take that into consideration on who you are coaching, because sometimes people, it's not the reality, right? So they don't have to think about it. So the fact that you are very intentional is amazing in that. So thank you for that insight. Sheema, I am coming to you, right? And I'm just going to say this. I absolutely love your prints. It's giving me all types of life right now. Can't help myself. I had to say that. So you are someone who's worked a lot in the sector, especially involving women leaders, and also, your work within the U.S. Navy, right? And I would love for you to talk a little bit about that. How did you transition your work from veteran life to your current passion and your leadership role?
Well, first, I just want to clear up. I am still in the Navy. I have not transitioned. This is
okay.
happening dual. I'm doing this dual. Because at the same time, I don't want to necessarily leave the Navy without ensuring that the legacy that I've been creating over these 18 years is solidified. And by doing that, that's where this passion for leadership has come from, is the sailors that I've had the ability and the honor to work for. And I always say work for, I think Hakemia kind of alluded to it, because being a leader is servitude in essence. You're serving the people who are following you and who are looking up to you and who are looking for your guidance to lead them to their greatest potential. And being in the military, I started in a place where sometimes I didn't always have that. I had a situation where I had somebody who had greater authority over me try to use that in a negative way and abuse that authority over me. And it was because there were other leaders in place that saw my potential, that saw what I was growing, I could potentially be, took the chance on me and just came back and supported me when I didn't think I had any support. And I want to be able to do that for others. I want others who come from a background like I have, where I dropped out of college. I have since finished, but I dropped out of college. I come from a very urban and hood place. And I am standing here to say that you can still lead others, because that experience is what gave me the foundation of who I am today. And that foundation that I have is what I share with others, and it's what resonates with them, and it inspires them to say, you know what, if you started from the bottom and now you're here, so can I. And so I continue pushing that, and that's why I'm so passionate about this. And that's why I'm starting now to start sharing what I've learned through my experiences, not just in the military, but prior to coming to the military, and what the military has disciplined in me, and share that with the civilian sector, because I do have people who have gone into the civilian sector using the things that I've taught them, and that engaging, that observing, they have implemented that into their daily lives, and now they're doing that in the civilian sector. So I think it's something that is needed out there, and I think this is the face that they need to see pushing it.
And it's a beautiful face. I agree. It's a great face to be seen and heard. So I absolutely love that. And what I heard you say, which I think is so amazing, Sheema, is that you're taking your leadership abilities from the military and taking it into, mainstream, which is great, because all this is transferable skills, and I just want to salute you and thank you for your services in the military. But that's amazing. Like, you're literally taking what you've done in the military and showing people, you're leveraging your leadership skills, on a whole nother platform, with mainstream. So thank you for that. And thank you for the clarification. So that is good. Hakemia, I am coming to you. So listen, I already told y'all, I am a lover of words. So when I was reading through and getting to know you ladies and doing my research on LinkedIn and making sure, I was just kind of prepared for this, it's something screamed at me. Sometimes things talk to me, sometimes things whisper to me, but this screamed at me. You identify as a gift enforcer. Write that down, y'all. A gift enforcer. Can you tell us about what that means and how a gift enforcer literally is a part of your leadership style?
Yes. So the core, or the first part of my career was in technology. So I traveled a lot. I was with one of the largest firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers, for 14 years. And I knew how to do my job very well. On the surface level, right, I had a career, paid the bills, created the lifestyle that I wanted, but it was always something missing inside of me. And I always knew that I had this desire to give and to serve and to help people. I just didn't know what that looked like. And so I went on a deeper journey, and that journey, took me on discovering what my true gifts were, really staying connected to the meaning and personal fulfillment and contributing to something bigger than just my career, bigger than just my circle, but really my community, my Black community. And so with that, I oftentimes see things, and as a coach, we know that we can't lead, right? But I oftentimes see things that, we as leaders suppress because of what's on our workload, because of, what we might be experiencing, or we might be afraid to even walk in those waters. So I believe that there's a divine force within each and every one of us. Each and every one of us has the capacity to lead. However, it hasn't been refined, or it hasn't been nurtured, or it's been deprived. And unfortunately, some of us are working in roles or careers that's depriving that gift and that opportunity to shine and to add value in your space. And so when I meet a leader and they're at this point where they're questioning whether or not they should continue in the role that they've been doing for the past 10 years because of what's going on externally, or what are those subliminal signs that Aiko talked about that they may be experiencing. It hurts me to the core. And so then we go through this journey of exploration to see what is that deep desire that you have deep inside, that desire that you say, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice this because I want to walk here. I am going to be okay with changing my career into a calling. And that calling, I'm not talking about something religious, but that calling could be a deeper impact in your community and the people around you. And I believe what COVID made us realize is that, yes, it's okay for me to do my job, but there's something else that's a deeper part of me that I have to use to change the world and the environment around me. So that's my passion. And I realized that we have it. Sometimes we just don't take the time to invest in it.
Hakemia, I just want to breathe the same air that you breathe, because I feel like me and you are energy twins. I mean, as you were talking, I'm like, this is a megaphone or a microphone. I am absolutely with it. We all have that leader within, and getting people on track. And when you said calling, you know, it wasn't religious, but I'm thinking, okay, Episcopal, evangelist, deaconess, let me stay in my lane. But I love the way you were going with it, and so much insight. And I love that. And I love how we're balancing off of each other. Now, we got a bunch of questions that are coming in from the chat. So I want to get your 2 cents and your interest. So Julian Williams, this is whoever, you know, I just want you to jump in based on this question. As a leader, right? As a woman leader in your role, how do you balance the line between delegation and then taking the charge on some of your projects, especially now because none of us are doing one thing. We all have multiple things on our plate. So whoever wants to jump in, then we have some more questions. We can start with one person here, but how do you balance the line between delegation as a leader and then also taking charge with some of the projects that you're working on? Who wants to jump in? Okay, Hakemia, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I would say this, and this is what I work on with a lot of leaders with. What's your leadership vision? I want you to think about that. How are you in a place where you want to lead with strategy? Are you in a place where you're saying, you know what, I want to encourage my people? So you can use delegation in multiple ways. So this is my opportunity to show trust towards my team, and them feel trusted and them feel empowered to lead, because we all know that leadership is all about grooming more leaders so that you can elevate in them too. Or if it's, hey, this is a project that is aligned to my leadership vision and where I see myself, so maybe this is something that I could hold near dear to my heart, and then allow pieces of that project to be offset to some of your talent. So you really have to decide, what's the imprint, what's the vision that I want to leave with my team as well as the organization? Is this a project that's tied to a key initiative that I see myself, being a part of? Or is this an opportunity to really upskill, to create upward mobility opportunities and enhance the competencies of my talent?
Right. Great question. And we have a follow-up to that. And thank you for that insight, because I think that having a leadership vision, it's one thing to be a leader, but where are you leading people to? Where are we going? Right. Mm-hmm. We got to know what's the final destination. Right. And we might not all get there together, but at least my vision, my mission is known. Right. And I think that's also important. So Eliz has a follow-up question to that. And I would love to hear from either Aiko or Sheema on this. And I can say this, right, because we are amplifying Black excellence. Right? We have a tendency, especially, to sometimes what I would say do the most, right, as leaders. So we'll take on a little bit more. And maybe you guys are past that. You know how to delegate and do those different things. But as a leader, especially as an underestimated leader or a minority leader or an underrepresented leader, how do you hold other leaders accountable to do the work as well? Because, sometimes all leaders are not created equal. We can all have the title, we can all have the transformation, but it might be us who are doing the majority of the work. So I would love to hear from either, like I said, Sheema or Aiko, and I'll rephrase the question. How do you literally make other leaders that are part of a team or project accountable to do the work they're supposed to do without us taking on it all? Because sometimes we have a tendency to do that. Who wants to jump in?
I can jump in on that.
Okay, Sheema,
because
go
I
ahead.
have a tendency to deal with that a lot in the military. In the military, I work in admin. I'm an administrator, and a lot of times being an administrator can be a thankless job. Out in civilian sector, the human resources, we are the reason why you're getting paid and your paperwork's getting processed. But for some odd reason, people tend to put us low on the totem pole of getting that stuff done until it's too late and they're in the red. So what I tend to do with things like that is I have a conversation usually with the person that's over everybody. And I talk to them and get to know them and get to know what their expectations in regards to my portion of what I bring for the mission. We call it a mission in the military. So what is our part in the mission? What's your expectations and what are your priorities? And now that I know all that, along with my team, we create what we call standard operating procedures. We put it down in writing. This is the procedure. This is how it's done. These are the consequences if you don't follow those procedures, if you don't do your part. And we have the buy-in now of the person that's over them that's supporting the whole transition of these SOPs. And once we have those SOPs in place, we advertise them, we make sure everybody knows where to find them, and then they get implemented. And then we make an example of whoever wants to come and test it. See, as a female, in the military, I'm usually the only female. I'm usually the only Black female. I'm also usually the only gay Black female in the room. So a lot of times I have to make sure that I'm going to stand up to my male counterparts, and I'm not going to let them put me out in any sort of way. And that's how I do that. I first give the guidelines out there, and then I start implementing them, because at the end of the day, we have rules and regulations. And if you don't want to follow those rules and regulations, you can please exit stage left.
I love a politically correct answer. Please exit stage left. You know, I love that. And thank you for using your voice in your career. I mean, you mentioned a couple things that people might not want to really share, you know, so I salute you and thank you for having those SOPs, holding people accountable in case they try it, you know, because some people do, right? So I just want to say thank you for that insight. And Virginia says, this conversation is extremely timely. She says, thank you for all of the time that you guys are giving. She says, Aiko, which I'm coming to you, you made a great point about daring to lead and being courageous authentically. How do you protect your peace as a person who is a marginalized identity? Meaning, how do you keep your sanity if you are a leader, but you're the only woman, you're the only maybe Black person, or maybe you're the only person maybe with disabilities or abilities, or a member? Like, how do you protect your peace? Because we're good, especially as Black women. We will go into a room, we will hold ourselves down, and then we will leave, and we could be emotionally depleted, right? We need 1 or 2 days to rest up after we just went through. So how do you keep your peace and your sanity as you're navigating as a leader, especially when all the time people don't maybe look like you?
Thank you. And thank you for bearing with me as I have my little coughing issues over here. All of my answer actually goes all the way back to maybe what the initial question was. One thing that's really important to do as a leader is to understand, to set and hold boundaries, to understand that. What are your boundaries? And boundaries just basically what's okay and what's not okay. So a lot of us will not enforce boundaries because we want to be liked. We want to feel valued. We want to be needed. And a lot of this goes back to us aligning that with our self-worth. So you find yourself hustling for your worth, saying yes when you really mean no, saying yes to a lot of projects instead of delegating because you feel like you have to be the one to do it. What if I don't do it? And being somebody who's Black or the only one in a system, oftentimes you might feel that you have to say yes, because if I don't, oh my gosh, I'm the affirmative action hire. Oh, I'm the lazy one. Oh, your boundaries all come from what your values are. If you can name your top 2 values, that actually explains what your boundaries are, what you say no to. When I say no, I mean no, period, not no and 6,000 excuses around it or explanations, okay? So, and when you as a leader model boundaries and you're saying, okay, there's a step when you go from being an individual contributor to when you're leading a team. So when you start leading a team, part of your job is to grow and nurture that team. So if you're doing all of the work, all these things, one, is not sustainable because they've actually elevated you so that you can think about strategy, so that you can nurture the team. So you can't keep being a doer in terms of tasks. The other part in nurturing the team is giving them a chance to learn and grow in those projects. So when you're hoarding all the projects, or you're saying, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, you're taking away their opportunity to grow. So I want to go back to this idea about boundaries. So when we're somebody who's only in a space, we're thinking about all of these things that go back to, how do I add value, improve, and show my value? So you have to go into a space already knowing you're worthy, already knowing your value. Are you going to find yourself constantly hustling for your worth? Okay, whether you're the only or you're one of many, you need to be anchored in your own self-worth and understand, why am I in this position and how is it serving me? Because some of us give so much, and we realize, wow, this is depleting me. I actually don't even like this job anymore. I'm not even growing anymore. And yet we stay. So you have to understand, how is this role even serving you and feeding back into you? Because that will help us to actually think about, how are we not being served? And I do want to, this idea about psychological safety and making sure people are doing the work. My job is not to make sure that a leader above me or somebody else is doing the work when it comes to equity work, okay? Because I'm not going to go into an organization and go in there and improve my worth in terms of my humanity. Okay, so I'm not going to keep telling everybody the case around DEI and why you should be happy to have me here as a Black person, as a member of LGBT. I'm not going to do that. My job is not to go in and establish and prove my worth to you. Okay, so I'm not going to, and you can't make anybody do any work. Okay, so you come in fully who you are, knowing why you're in this role, knowing your boundaries of what I am willing to accept and what I am not willing to accept, and you hold on, you stand firm in those. If there's a moment where I might waver on something and say, this doesn't feel right, it's infringing upon my value of justice, I am going to be darn intentional about, why am I allowing that infraction or that breach? It may be, for some of us, we don't have privilege to be able to just leave a job when it's not honoring who we are, because we need health insurance. We need to make sure the lights stay on. But you know what? I realized in that moment when I decide to stay despite, I understand why this job is serving me. And I'm making plans about, what does my next look like? Okay. So now when I look back and I realize, oh man, these people did all these things in front of me, I did nothing about it, I know exactly why. And I'm not in regret. So I was intentional, and I wasn't by default allowing my boundaries to be trampled on. So I want to be really clear about boundaries, living your life in integrity, honoring who you are. Your job, your role in life is not to constantly be reestablishing that you are worthy. That's a conversation that you have with yourself. And it's not for me to go into a job and be like, oh my gosh, Sheema doesn't like me, so that means I'm not doing, I've got to work harder and I've got to hustle for my worth. You will burn yourself out, and you will also start believing the inner critic and the messages from systems that are not meant to build you up, but to break you down. Most of us know these systems are not meant with us in mind and for us to thrive. So I want you to move out of that mindset of surviving and people liking me, and how can I make somebody actually honor equity and make them actually treat Black people right? And then that is not your role. So I want you to remember your values and your boundary, and make sure you are not drinking the toxicity from the water that we're swimming in, which is often misogynistic, is often racist, is often homophobic, is so many things. You've got to be able to put that filter on, so you're not drinking that water, so you're not thinking, oh my gosh, now I've got to do this work. If you are out here leading these ERGs and nobody is paying you to do it, you are out here educating everybody about equity and sharing and putting your lived experiences on display, I am going to ask you to stop it. If you are not invoicing people, then you are not there to educate them. It's about my job. If I'm educating, you're going to get an invoice, but that is a boundary I have. So do not go out here leading these ERGs, putting another 80 hours a month in on Black History Month because you got to do the Black history. That is not your job. If that is not in your paycheck, I need you to stop it. You are burning yourself out, and you're setting a poor precedent where that expectation is going to be for everybody else.
Listen, that was a masterclass in mentality, y'all. I mean, I just was like, let me just all of that, and here's the reason why.
That was a mic drop right there.
That was a mic drop megaphone moment, because what I love about all of you women is the leadership and the worthiness that you come to on this platform. By you amplifying Black excellence, you are giving permission to everyone who is watching this to do the same. Not saying that we have to always fight and prove ourselves worthy in our roles. Us being there and qualified, that is enough. So I just had to get excited. I mean, you can drink all the water. Come on back to us, because that was so amazing. It was so good. She had to take a sip after that, because again, it's just like, once you know who you are and you can verbalize your value and articulate your awesomeness, you don't ask for anybody's permission. And I think that's what I got from what you're saying. It's not like we're begging for the world to see our worthiness. We just know who we are. So I love it. I mean, literally a whole masterclass on mentality and your worth. And you talk about boundaries and beliefs. I'm like, yes, yes, and yes again. The chat box is on fire, y'all. If this is good so far, if you are loving this conversation that we are having, again, we are talking about what makes a leader, leaving a leadership legacy. And I am joined with Aiko Bethea. We have Hakemia Jackson. We have Sheema B, and the conversation is just coming on. So thank you for that.
Quinn, I want to ask, I want to add to what Aiko said earlier. Yes. Everything was just powerful. And when I say powerful, I mean it connected to the spirit. And so I want everyone to also realize, as we take this stance, as we walk in our freedom, as we lead, with that, people are going to respond a certain way, okay? And we have to understand they may not be receptive to the new stance that you hold, okay? And so that might be the sacrifice that you make in this stance, in setting those boundaries and truly living out those values and truly staying aligned to that calling or leadership vision. There's a sacrifice, there's a risk on the other end. And you have to ask yourself, am I okay with accepting this potential risk? But it's to benefit me and my well-being and the lifestyle that I want to create for myself. So it's all good. Remember, when you are on another level, you're going to have people beneath you and above you, and they have to get to know this new person on this new level. And you have to be okay if it is a closed door or a next opportunity.
Yeah. In other words, I hear you say, allow me to reintroduce myself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
that is what empowerment and professional development will do, especially if you were here at the Amplifying, Black Excellence, reboot series, which I absolutely love. So we have a question, right? This is from Lynette, and I'm going to paraphrase this. You guys are awesome and amazing, and maybe you struggle with this or maybe you don't. So imposter syndrome is a thing, right? People are saying it. I have imposter syndrome and all this going on. As a leader, how do you combat that? Or do you have any insight or advice for other women who are in leadership roles or African Americans or Black people who are in leadership roles who might battle with imposter syndrome? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. So either what you do to combat it, if that's not your story, that's not your ministry, that's not your problem, then what advice would you give to other people who are maybe struggling with imposter syndrome and how they can still push through that and be the great leader they want to be? Who wants to jump in? Sheema, I'm coming to you. I think you're looking to unmute yourself.
I was, you were good. You got that good insight. When it comes to imposter syndrome, I definitely have experienced it in my trajectory, especially because sometimes you get to a point like, who's going to listen to me? I don't have this. I mean, it took me over 16 years to get my degree. So for a very long time, I didn't have certification degrees and all that other stuff. So why would anybody listen to me? But then I realized that the people that I was trying to get, I guess, they're okay from, weren't the people I was really trying to impact and influence. It was the people who was coming up behind me. And once I realized that my story resonated with them and they needed that story, and they came back and it was like, thank you for showing up. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for standing up. It was like, you know what? I don't need anybody else to tell me that my story, my journey means something, and that I that I know how to lead. I am leading. I made it this far, so just leading myself. And that's why everybody else is sitting there coming behind me and wanting to see what I'm doing and see how I do it and ask for my guidance. As a day doesn't go by that somebody who outranks me, that doesn't come to me and asks, hey, what's your thought process on this? What do you think? What would you recommend? And that's because I'm not sitting here trying to fake anybody's funk. This is who I am. This is my story. And I just keep moving forward. So what I would say to you, if you feel like you are being an imposter, if you are living your authentic story and you know that you came from something else and you were able to get yourself out of that and get to this point, you led somebody. You led somebody through a battle and you won. So recognize that and acknowledge that and honor that about yourself because you're winning. Celebrate your win. And we don't do that enough. So celebrate your win. You are not an imposter. You're a leader. Recognize that.
I love that. Go ahead and type that in the chat box. Celebrate your win, right? Because we're looking to our left, we're looking to our right. Well, we got to celebrate what we're doing in the space as a leader. So celebrate your win. Put that in the chat box. That way we know that that can like really marinate. And such good insight because a lot of times, you know, it's this whole imposter syndrome thing. It's like, we deserve it, right? Like we wouldn't be there. You know, sometimes you have the life experience. Sometimes you have the college education. Sometimes you have the professional development. Sometimes you just have the experience, but you deserve to be there. So I love that. Now I'm coming to you with this next question, Hakemia, because I think you'll be a good person to answer this, right? Because you talked about when you want to lead someone, you have to have a vision as a leader, right? But what if, right, your leadership is being rejected? People are just like not for it. You've attempted to provide a service, lead a group, and for whatever reason, they are not feeling it. They're rejecting it, or for various reasons. Maybe they have excuses, but they're not trying to be on your leadership train, right? They're like, I don't want to do this. How do you do that if you feel like your leadership is being rejected?
The easy question, it's time for you to make moves. Every environment will not accept you, okay? So you have to make a decision. Will I remain and minimize my effort or shift my vision for this organization? Is it worth it? Is it worth me staying and decaying inside and dealing with whatever trauma that exists and me not having that psychological safety? Or should I align myself with an organization that welcomes me in all of my authentic self that Sheema talked about? Is it an opportunity for me to be a corporatepreneur or entrepreneur where they accept my vision and the direction that I would like to lead the team and the impact that I want to make? These are the hard questions that we have to ask ourselves and sometimes coach ourselves. You know, for me specifically, I had to make this decision. I experienced discrimination. I love the organization. The money was right, everything. And when I experienced discrimination, I believe it was a sign. And that sign said, hey, it's time for you to make moves. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing because there's something greater inside of you that the world is desiring. And when I started doing the research and talking to, you know, my partners and other directors and seeing that they experienced the same thing that I did, I was like, oh hell nah. I have to do something bigger. I have to be there. I have to be that partner. And so I took a leap of faith. And so far for the past 7 years, this is, you know, my organization, because I recognize it's Black women and other people of color that are experiencing these things, and they don't have the space to be authentic or feel safe or to be trusted. And they're trying to figure out why. And they look inside themselves because they're believing whatever that message is that Aiko talked about, right? They're drinking the toxic water when really we have to guard our mind and our thoughts, because that dictates how we speak, how we move, how we shift or change our character and where we are going as a leader. That's very important. So surround yourself with people who do more than just empower you, but keep you accountable. So I'm sharing with Aiko and Quinn and Sheema, hey, Next year, I'm going to be on the global stage as a leader, right? You keep those people around you, that personal advisory board that says, you know what? You're not a rejected leader. You're just misplaced. You're just misaligned. So let me get in alignment with the organization or with the team or with the community that's going to elevate me forward.
Hakemia, I'm trying not to pass the offering plate. I'm trying to hold on because what you said was so profound. It's not that you are a rejected leader, you are misplaced. And I think that was you just unlocked something in somebody, because sometimes we are fighting for a place to stay in somewhere that's toxic, not understand that we have options, we have choices. So some of it, like you said, if you've been doing this and they're not on your bandwagon and you know it makes sense and they're not on board, it could be time to look elsewhere. And right now we're in style, right? Right. We are in style, our thought process, our perspective, all of that is good. I mean, people are looking to hire like crazy. So you don't have to put up with that. This is not, the 50s, 60s, 70s, where we are so grateful to have a position or a job. We are literally taking our experience, our subject matter, and we are either applying it to our own businesses or we're taking to another corporate position where we are valued and not just tolerated. So I love that. You are not a rejected leader. You are probably misplaced. I mean, listen, this can go on forever. I absolutely love it. So we're going to keep this party going with a couple more questions, and then I'm going to ask you guys where everybody can keep in contact with you if they want to do so after today's panel. This is going so fast. Look, sometimes things are good. Sometimes things are great. I believe that this panel has been grand. If you think that the insight that you're getting today has been grand so far, go ahead and type grand in the comments, because I'm just loving it. I got my own set of notes. I'm supposed to be moderating a panel. I done taken notes because I like to learn, right? I like to grow and expand. So I absolutely love that as well. Lena has a comment for you, Sheema. She says, I can relate to you. I was once in the construction and mining industry, and as a young Black woman experiencing older men, I had to prove every day that I belong and that I'm worth the respect and their attention. So that was one of the comments, right? So here's a question. Go ahead. Did you want to add to that real quick, Sheema? Did you just want to say something?
I just wanted to say we have to stand firm in those places where right now we're not the norm, so that we can show others that it's okay and make it the norm. That's any industry where it's male dominated or even white dominated, construction work, being labormen at sea, being in the STEM different programs, being in the military, because even though there is a lot of women in the military, we are still the minority in the military. So wherever it looks like we aren't there, let's bust it wide open. Just bust it wide open. You deserve to be there. And I thank you for going there and standing firm and showing them that you probably deserve to be there more than them.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And you say it with a smile, and you say it with grace. So that's always good. Now we got probably a couple more questions. Lisa, which I think is a very, very good question. Lisa Davis says she spent a lot of time in leadership in the state government, and she's been surprised and saddened about how many people do not speak up regarding organizational concerns. And I think, and I would love to know your perception, because I feel like this was a thing, years ago. I don't know if it's still as relevant, but Aiko, I would love to come to you. What is your insight on, the whole concept of the angry Black woman? Is that still a thing? Should we be concerned? Should we challenge this stereotype or misconception? Or is this a concept that's kind of like, we're not really there anymore? Is the angry Black woman still a thing when we decide to speak up or express passion or concern? Because that's what it is. It's our passionate, and we're just vocal. We're animated. We're a cultured people. So when we talk, we use our hands. We're not angry. We're just passionate, right? But does the angry Black woman, does that misconception and stereotype still linger on? And if so, how does somebody combat that? What do you think, Aiko?
So many things to say about that, which is that people have to remember what tropes are used for. They're used to disempower people and to silence people. And they're also used to cause division. It's a way to continue to exercise control over people so that you think, oh my gosh, I don't want to be angry Black woman, so therefore I'm not going to say this. So it's a way to silence you. The other thing I want to push back on is the idea of the truth of the matter, which is I live in this society in my Black skin and as a woman, and I have a lot of reasons to be angry, and they're legitimate and they're valid. So the other part is we don't need to be afraid of the fact that we are angry when we legitimately are if something's happening. And when someone's trying to use that to silence you, to say, oh, here you go, angry Black woman, legitimizing the fact there's a lot I have to be angry about. I'm afraid every day for my 2 sons, 2 Black boys. So yes, I'm angry. I'm angry that there was another no-knock warrant that happened and Amir Locke died. I'm angry when I think about this week, Trayvon Martin would have been 27. So yes, I'm angry, and there are legitimate reasons to be angry. And if you don't like it, you need to be a part of the reason why I don't need to be angry anymore in terms of thinking about those inequities, thinking about humanity, valuing them. Now, so I want to park that because a lot of times we're afraid and we push back. I don't want to be seen as. I want you to legitimize how you feel, angry or not, and not feel shame or guilt about how you feel. Okay. Now, the other part is at work, if it's because, wow, I'm adding value and I'm adding my perspective, and because it may be a critique, someone's going to say, oh, I'm angry. And I think that whenever someone's saying angry, for you to hold them accountable. So this is social accountability is what actually changes culture within the organization. That's me looking over at Hakemia and saying, so what is it about how I just now expressed that makes you attach the word angry to that? But the other part, if someone says angry Black woman, I'm going to actually say, what actually allowed you to attach not only angry, and what does my Blackness have to do with this, except to invalidate the fact that I don't have a right to be angry, or my voice doesn't have a right to be in this room. There is this power of, holding people accountable. Like, what did you mean when you said that? Now, I'm not going to spend all day educating somebody about the history, about why that trope is racist and has problems, but I'm probably going to shoot you and everybody in the room an article just about that trope so they can educate themselves and understand why that is unacceptable. And I'll probably copy HR on that too, because I should not be educating you about how to treat people with dignity and respect. And you need to be accountable for the words that you use. So I don't know if that actually answers that question, but I want people to really feel like recognizing, going back to the fact of your own self-worth and the right that you have of actually standing your ground, the right you have to legitimize your emotions and your feelings and your experiences, and the right that you have to hold other people accountable. And you can hold people accountable in generosity. It doesn't have to be punitive, whatever. It's just, hey, what did you mean by that? Tell me more. Why did you attach the word angry to that? Why did you attach the word Black to that? Why was that important? So I think that, in terms of thinking about our own emotional labor, our own exhaustion, understanding, stepping back, thinking about the system, thinking about what's happening. And I will tell you that when a lot of those things happen in rooms, one of the first feelings or experiences we have is feeling shame. And I'm not going to say anything, oh my God. And the antidote to shame is speaking the thing out loud, naming it, and being in connection with other people. Okay.
You just better mic drop every time you talk now. I just was like, do we have more time? I'm looking at the clock like, we need more time, right? This is so good. But I think one of the biggest nuggets that I want all of you to take away from what she just said is it's the accountability piece, right? Because we have been in a society and a culture that has been very comfortable with us being muted or silenced. So not even being angry, but tell me what you mean by that. They're not ready for that. So holding people accountable, really pulling people up, really questioning, what did I say? So it doesn't just get dismissed. I think it's just a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for giving us such a realistic perspective. And I just love your demeanor. I want to steal some of that because I can be very high passionate because, sometimes I go from, what you're not going to do to, oh no, I'm in a corporate space. Let me go ahead and not say it like that. So I love the way that you can still be assertive in your own voice. And like she said, some of these tropes that have been around has been meant to, it's another form of oppression that we need to challenge, that we need to acknowledge, that we need to hold people accountable because some people are literally operating in what I would call their privilege, right? So nobody's ever called them out. So that's our job to call them out and ask them what they mean. So listen, y'all, we got about 4 minutes, and I would be completely remiss before I hand the microphone back over to the lovely Mariella to let people know, like, where can people connect with you? And we have so many more questions. So if you guys had questions and we didn't get a chance to answer those, my apologies, but I promise you, I'm sure there's a social media platform that everyone here wouldn't mind connecting with you to make sure that your questions are seen, heard, and answered. So I'm going to start with you, Sheema. If people want to connect with you after today's Amplifying Black Excellence event, where can they go to get all good things, Sheema?
So, first of all, thank you so much, Quinn, for moderating, and thank you, Power to Fly, for inviting me here. I really appreciate it. It's been such a great time and so much great information. If you do want to continue the dialogue with me, please follow me on all my social medias. I am Sheema B. That is IAMSHEEMA B. You can find me on all of them. But if you go to my Instagram specifically and go to the link in the bio, you'll get a free download for 5 great ways to influence impact. You'll also get an opportunity to hear more about a book I have coming out called Leading Without Followers. Excuse me. I'm so excited to share. Leading Without Followers. I'm also going to be speaking about leading with trust at the Exceptional Women's Tour. And also, if you just want to talk to me, you can get on my calendar, and all of that is at my Instagram bio link. So again, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate this time.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm coming to you, Hakemia. If people want to connect with you after today, because we literally have 2 minutes before I pass this over. I don't want the time to end, but where can they connect with you after today?
I know. Thank you so much, Quinn. You are amazing. Thank you, Power to Fly, for this blessing, this opportunity to meet brilliant leaders that we're talking to today. Aiko and Sheema, please connect with me on all my social media at Divinely Powered LLC, LinkedIn, Hakemia Jackson, as well as my website, divinelypowered.com, if you are looking to partner and grow in community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Aiko, if people want to connect with you after today, where can they learn more about what you are doing and what you're up to?
So you can always find me on LinkedIn at Aiko Bethea. And then you can always find my website, www.rarecoaching.net, N-E-T. And we're really active on Instagram at rarecoach or at rare_coach. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Again, my name is Quinn Conyers, and literally I partner with event and meeting planners and turn their events into epic experiences as a master moderator and an energetic MC. Power to Fly, thank you so much, literally, for hosting us. With that being said, if you want to connect with me, my name is Quinn Conyers on all social media platforms, but LinkedIn is where I like to have the most fun, as well as you can go to QuinnConyers.com and we can stay connected there. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass the megaphone back over to the amazing, the marvelous Mariella Marie.